Baron Zemo. Kicking off our newly grounded list at number 9, we have a man who is the definition of old money. That man is Baron Helmut Zemo. And yes, he is literally a baron. In his first appearance in Captain America Civil War, Zemo is portrayed as a rogue Sokovian intelligence officer, but it isn't until The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that we actually got to look at his bank account. This guy is loaded, and not because he has stocks in a company or miles and miles of real estate. He is actually royalty.
I'm a baron, son. My family was royalty until your friends destroyed my country.
He explicitly states that his family was Sokovian royalty long before Ultron dropped the country out of the sky. Oh, also, did I mention this guy has a literal private butler? To put some actual numbers to his name, just look at what he casually uses on screen. A mid-sized private jet like the one he flies Sam and Bucky around in costs anywhere from $30 to $70 million up front, and that does not even include the millions in annual fuel, pilot, and maintenance fees. Add in a private collection of pristine vintage cars that could easily pull 10 to 20 million at auction, plus prime off-the-grid real estate hidden across major European cities like his safe house in Riga. Even on a conservative estimate, Zemo is comfortably sitting on well over $100 million in liquid cash and physical assets. Wilson Fisk. At number 8, we've got Big Willie, the kingpin of New York's underworld. While his money might be completely dirty and acquired through hundreds of dead bodies, it is incredibly liquid. Fisk uses his money for a lot of things: Kevlar suits, limousines, and most recently, a ship which he willingly sank. Firstly, the guy just has so much real estate. Fisk used a brilliant network of shell companies and allied crime syndicates like Union Allied Construction to monopolize the rebuilding of Hell's Kitchen. He was essentially getting paid by the government to rebuild the exact city he was secretly extorting. But the true scale of his wealth is measured by his massive payroll. By the time we get to Daredevil Season 3, Fisk isn't just bribing the beat cops and corrupt local judges. He is actively paying off half of the NYPD, high-ranking FBI agents, federal judges, and local politicians.
But I believe Wilson Fisk is currently engaged in a criminal conspiracy and has manipulated the Bureau into becoming his unwitting accomplice.
We even see this carry over into the Hawkeye series and Echo, where he commands heavily armed private mercenary armies. And now, he's richer than ever. Using Fisk Industries as his front to become mayor of New York, he now also has access to the city's resources, which he uses to hunt down every vigilante he can find. Now, let's talk about what the actual paycheck for the mayor of New York is. Currently, Zoran Mamdani has an annual salary of $258,750, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to the municipal budget the mayor has access to, which is easily $100 billion plus. Fisk can use that however he wants, considering he has so much of the city in his pocket. He even comfortably paid triple the going rate for Rabbit in a Snowstorm, which is that painting that brought him and his wife Vanessa together. So yes, Wilson Fisk, both through his legal and illegal activities, is one of the richest people in MCU's America. Justin Hammer. At number 7, we have tech CEO and multi-billionaire Justin Hammer. This is the world of massive government defense contracts, and in real life, he'd be like Elon Musk levels of rich. Hammer is the ultimate example of the second best still being absolutely filthy rich. While Tony Stark has been privatizing world peace, Justin Hammer stepped right into the vacuum to secure massive multi-billion-dollar weapons contracts with the United States military. We see him effortlessly throw money around in Iron Man 2, from sponsoring the Monaco Historic Grand Prix to legally bailing Ivan Vanko out of a high-security international prison just to hire him as a private contractor. Even though his tech was notoriously prone to misfiring or completely breaking down, Hammer Industries was a titan of the defense sector. The sheer cost of manufacturing his army of heavy artillery Hammer drones and outfitting War Machine with experimental bunker-busting missiles puts his corporate net worth firmly in the multi-billion-dollar range. One thing you gotta understand about these Iron Man villains, they're all uber wealthy, like the top 1% wealthy. I mean, Hammer was manufacturing dozens of fully automated bipedal combat drones for the Stark Expo. Let's just lowball the guy, assume that they were all cheap knockoffs, and he cut costs wherever he could, which, to be honest, billionaires often do. The research, development, and manufacturing pipeline for that single presentation alone would have easily cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Add in his massive factories, corporate headquarters, and federal backing, Justin Hammer was comfortably sitting on a net worth of several billion dollars. The biggest proof of this is the fact that in the industry, he was seen as a direct competitor to Stark Industries. And you don't need to tell me how rich you think Tony and Howard Stark are. Ulysses Klaue. At number 6, we have Ulysses Klaue, Unlike the others on this list, he didn't make his fortune through corporate contracts or generational wealth, but through straight-up theft and black market deals. Klaue is unique because his net worth is almost entirely composed of liquid cash and stolen alien resources. In Avengers Age of Ultron, he explicitly states that he is the only outsider to ever steal from Wakanda and make it out alive. He managed to steal a massive cache of vibranium and spent decades selling it exclusively to the highest bidders on the black market. To put a real dollar amount on Ulysses Klaue, you just have to look at the market value of his stolen Wakandan assets. In Marvel lore, vibranium is canonically valued at around $10,000 per gram. Klaue had a massive stockpile of it, and he was profiting off of every gram, which explains the multi-billion-dollar transfer Ultron sent directly into his dummy accounts just for vibranium breadcrumbs. Add in the cost of his Wakandan mining laser prosthetic.
Your old man.
And his massive salvage yard operation off the coast of Africa, and Klaue was easily controlling a liquid net worth of at least $3 to $4 billion before his demise in Black Panther.
So you some crazy American.
Danny Rand. Breaking into the top 5 takes us out of the criminal underworld and straight into legitimate global monopolies with Danny Rand. You might know him as the immortal Iron Fist, but let's be real, when did that ever come in handy? His most powerful ability is actually his 51% majority stake in Rand Enterprises. I know none of this looks like he owns the company, but when you come back from a mystical land of kung fu gods and suddenly claim you're the founder's son, it's a bit awkward. When Danny finally returned to New York City after surviving his plane crash, he took back control of a multinational conglomerate that dominates almost every major industry. Throughout the events of Iron Fist and The Defenders, we see a company that owns prime Manhattan skyscrapers, global shipping ports, chemical plants, and massive pharmaceutical division. He is essentially a trust fund kid who can magically punch through brick walls. Instead of looking at a single stolen stash or a shady defense contract, we're evaluating a true Fortune 500 level empire. Rand Enterprises operates on a scale similar to real-world giants like Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson. Global corporations with that kind of medical and shipping footprint easily pull in annual revenues crossing the $50 billion mark. Danny is notorious for making terrible business decisions, like forcing his board to sell life-saving drugs at cost. But even with those massive financial losses, his corporate stake is so huge that it safely puts his personal net worth deep into the tens of billions. Tony Stark. When you think about Marvel's billionaires, the first person you think of is Tony Stark. He's operating in a completely different financial universe. He started as the crown prince of the military-industrial complex, inheriting Stark Industries from his father, Howard Stark. In the first Iron Man, he famously shut down the weapons manufacturing division. But did you guys notice how mad Obadiah was?
Effective immediately, I am shutting down the weapons manufacturing division of Stark International until such a time.
The whole thing he had with voting Tony out of the company was because of how big Stark Industries was. You guys gotta understand, he shook up the entire industry. This guy was the primary weapons supplier globally. Throughout the Infinity Saga, we watch him essentially privately fund world security.
I have successfully privatized world peace.
He builds the Avengers Tower in the middle of Manhattan, bankrolls the entire Avengers roster, creates the Department of Damage Control to clean up alien invasions, and funds the global relief efforts. Even after his death in Avengers Endgame, his legacy and wealth continue to shape the global economy. Then you have to factor in the real estate and infrastructure. Stark Tower was a massive custom-built skyscraper in the most expensive zip code in the entire world, powered entirely by its own self-sustaining clean energy arc reactor. When he finally sold that building, he moved the team to the massive upstate Avengers compound, outfitting it with state-of-the-art training facilities, aviation hangars, and highly secure housing. But his absolute most expensive asset is actually floating up in space. In Spider-Man Far From Home, we are introduced to the Edith system. This is a massive global satellite network that controls thousands of highly advanced weaponized orbital drones. Building, launching, and maintaining a private satellite constellation of that magnitude, fully equipped with advanced artificial intelligence and precision military-grade weapons, would easily cost hundreds of billions of dollars in real-world money. Stark Industries is not just a technology company, it is an independent global superpower. Between his clean energy monopolies, infinite tech patents, and private orbital defense grids, Tony Stark was comfortably controlling a personal net worth that's unmatched. Iron Man Volume 4, Issue 7 explicitly states that Tony Stark is the 36th richest man in the world. Plus, did you know that Forbes actually calculated his net worth? Forbes actually had a fictional 15 list where financial experts actually calculated the net worth of fictional characters based on their canon assets. And in their 2013 evaluation, they put Tony's net worth at $12.4 billion, which made him the 4th richest fictional character in the world at the time. It's also worth noting that 616 Tony does not hold onto his money nearly as well as other billionaires. He is famous for constantly losing his fortune. Over the decades, he has been completely bankrupted, lost Stark International to Obadiah Stane, had his assets frozen by the government, and even spent his entire remaining fortune just to buy up black market weapons to keep them out of the hands of villains. Wenwu. While Tony Stark dominated the modern era of technology, Wenwu built his fortune the old-fashioned way through 1,000 years of continuous conquest. Introduced in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Wenwu is the immortal warlord who founded the Ten Rings organization. For over a millennium, he operated from the shadows, toppling governments, assassinating world leaders, and shaping the course of global history. Throughout the movie, we see his massive hidden mountain fortress filled with ancient relics and a private army equipped with state-of-the-art military vehicles, armored helicopters, and experimental weapons. He's basically infiltrated every level of global power across the entire planet. Honestly, there's no real way to measure his worth. He has been alive longer than some currencies and countries have existed. In that very lengthy period, he's amassed hordes of wealth. If you look at real-life conquerors like Augustus Caesar or Mansa Musa, they had personal wealth that would be valued in the hundreds of billions or even trillions today. Now, imagine a guy on their level that never died, never had his empire divided among his heirs, and kept investing and hoarding that wealth into the modern era. And that's without factoring in his massive fortified mountain compound and highly trained private army. It's not an exaggeration to say that Wenwu is worth more than some countries. T'Challa/Shuri. The absolute top spot on this list goes to the undisputed peak of wealth that is the royal family of Wakanda. T'Challa and Shuri are the richest people on the planet. Wakanda masqueraded as a humble farming country for decades, but in reality, you're looking at the most advanced nation on Earth, and it comes with all the perks you'd expect. The source of Wakanda's, and by extension the royal family's wealth, is their extreme amounts of vibranium. Just to put it into perspective, Klaue earned himself a spot on this list by selling vibranium. Imagine how rich the people who mine it every day actually are. I mean, he literally has an invisible jet that just shows up at the beck and call. Plus, in that same scene, T'Challa throws a massive flex by revealing he's bought several buildings in the area. By the way, we're talking about prime California real estate somewhere in the late 2010s, which is valued in millions of dollars.
We are not tearing it down. I bought this building. And that building. And that one over there.
But that's just the initial cost of his plans. He wants to turn these buildings into national outreach and exchange centers to set up a bridge between Wakanda and the broader world. Just outfitting each institute with state-of-the-art Wakandan tech is probably extremely expensive. And speaking of tech, the stuff we see in Wakanda is probably some of the most expensive technology on the planet. Shuri's lab alone must cost somewhere in the billions, and don't even get me started on the maglev trains. But how exactly does he pay for it? Here's a golden rule of thumb for you. When it's about Wakanda, just assume the answer is vibranium. It's like the Flash and the Speed Force. Luckily, the comics actually give us a look into how much vibranium Wakanda has. We already know the price of 1 gram. In Doom War number 1, we actually find out how much vibranium T'Challa has in the Royal Vault, 10,000 tons. Now, without getting into a lot of complicated math, if each gram is worth $10,000 and he has 10,000 tons of it, T'Challa is sitting on roughly $90.7 trillion in that vault alone. I know that's a ridiculous number, but it makes sense for the rarest metal on Earth, and this probably isn't taking into account his own personal assets, net worth, and wealth. So, without contest, and by a comically large, pun intended, margin, T'Challa is the richest person in Marvel. The bank accounts in Marvel are almost as deep as the lore, honestly. Some of these guys are like Saudi prince levels of rich, and some of them make Tony Stark look homeless. Did you ever think T'Challa had a $90 trillion net worth? We don't even have a real trillionaire yet. And funny enough, Tony's not the richest person in the MCU or the comics, not by a long shot.